Have you looked back on a relationship, a friendship, or even a business opportunity and thought the signs were there? I just didn't want to see them. Or maybe you've had the opposite experience. You meet someone for the first time and something deep inside whisper, be careful. You couldn't explain it logically, but months or even years later, you realize your intuition was right. So why does that happen? Why do some people naturally recognize truth while others overlook red flags, absorb other people's opinions, or struggle to trust themselves? Welcome back. I'm Dr. Renee McSwain-Ghavidel, Doctor of Oriental Medicine, licensed acupuncturist, Chinese herbalist, founder of Dr. Renee Holistic, and creator of EpiTech Healing Framework, where ancient wisdom meets modern day practicality. If you've been following this series, you've already met the heart official, the emperor who teaches us joy, love, and authentic connection. Then we meet the pericardium, the heart protector, who teaches us healthy boundaries and reminds us that protecting our heart is just as important as opening it. And today we're meeting the official that helps them both, because the heart may know how to love and the pericardium may know how to protect, but the small intestine teaches us what deserves to stay. I like to call it the magnificent sorter. In classical Chinese medicine, the small intestine is known as the official who receives, transforms, and makes distinctions. Imagine someone panning for gold. They don't keep every rock or every grain of sand or every handful of dirt. They carefully sort until only the gold remains. And that's exactly what your small intestine is doing every single day. Not only with food, but your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, your beliefs, your experiences. Every day, your small intestine is asking one simple question: does this belong inside of me? When that sorter is working well, life becomes clear. But when it doesn't, everything gets mixed together and murky. Most people think the small intestine only digests food, but in Chinese medicine, we digest much more than meals. We digest conversation, successes, failures, compliments, criticism, heartbreak, trauma, loss. Every experience enters our energetic digestive system, and some experiences nourishes us and others simply don't belong. Healing isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about releasing what should never have stayed. The small intestine has a special relationship with the heart. Remember, the heart is the emperor. It houses the shin, our spirit, consciousness, joy, and capacity for love. Because the heart is so precious, it must be protected from excessive fire. One of the small intestine's classical responsibilities is to help receive and redirect excess heat from the heart so it doesn't continue to injure the heart. Think about a fireplace. A healthy fire gives us warmth. However, too much fire burns the house down. The same is true in our bodies. Stress, chronic anxiety, sleep deprivation, emotional overwhelm, unresolved grief, these can all create excess heat. And when the heat isn't properly redirected, Chinese medicine teaches us that it can travel into the small intestine and urinary system. That's why some people, especially women, experience burning urination, urinary urgency, or chronic UTI symptoms. Yet every urine culture comes back negative. From a biomedical perspective, there may not be an infection. From a Chinese medicine perspective, we may ask a different question. Is there excess heat that needs to be cleared? Sometimes the body isn't fighting bacteria. Sometimes it's trying to release excess fire. The small intestine doesn't just sort nutrients, it also sorts information. And when it's healthy, our thoughts become organized, ideas flow logically, and we can separate what's important from what's simply noise. But when it's out of balance, our thoughts are scattered. We overthink, we second guess ourselves, and we know a lot but struggle to communicate it. I've experienced this firsthand. Some of the most brilliant professors I've ever had possess incredible knowledge. They absolutely understood their subject. But when they taught, they became lost in tiny details, and one tangent would lead to another, and the main point would often disappear. The knowledge wasn't the problem, it was the sorter. Without sorting, clarity gets lost. Emotionally, the small intestines teaches us discernment, not judgment, discernment. It asks, is this relationship healthy? Is this person's action consistent with their words? Can I trust them? The heart may say, I love them. However, the small intestine gently asks, yes, but are they trustworthy? The heart says they're exciting, and the small intestine asks, do they also bring you peace? Chemistry is not character. Excitement is not safety. Potential is not reality. When the small intestine is balanced, we recognize red flags without becoming cynical. When it's out of balance, we either ignore every warning sign or trust no one at all. Healthy discernment lives in the middle. Spiritually, the small intestine asks one lifelong question. What belongs to me? Which beliefs are actually mine? Which fears did I inherit? Which expectations came from my family, my culture, my trauma? Healing often begins when we stop carrying emotional luggage that someone else packed. The small intestine reminds us that we have the permission to unpack it, to sort, to keep what's nourishing our spirit, and to release everything else. Now, it's important to remember that every one of us has a small intestine official, but for some people, this official takes center stage. In 5-element acupuncture, we sometimes meet individuals whose life seems to revolve around one central question: what is true? These are people I think of as small intestine constitutions, the truth seekers. They have an extraordinary ability to discern. They naturally look beneath the surface. They're not easily impressed by appearances. They want authenticity, integrity, consistency. They aren't interested in what other people are saying. They're interested in whether someone's actions align with their words. And when they're healthy and balanced, they become incredible advisors, investigators, counselors, researchers, teachers, judges, therapists, and leaders because of their remarkable ability to separate fact from fiction and clarity from confusion. People often seek them out when life feels complicated because they have a gift for helping people see what truly matters. But every gift has a shadow. When the small intestine constitution falls out of balance, that beautiful gift of discernment can become overanalysis. Instead of finding clarity, they become stuck, searching for certainty. They replay conversations, question every decision, analyze every detail. They may become overwhelmed by information. They feel they need one more piece of evidence before they can move forward. Others swing in the opposite direction. After being disappointed or betrayed, they become overly suspicious. They begin questioning everyone's motives. Instead of using discernment to find the truth, they use it to search for reasons not to trust. The lesson of the small intestine constitution isn't to know everything. It's to trust that once you've sorted what is true, you don't have to keep sorting. At some point, wisdom invites action. And that's really the gift of this official. Not perfect certainty, but the confidence to recognize truth and the courage to live by it. You strengthen this official every time you choose discernment. Slow down before making major decisions and pay attention to patterns instead of promises. Journal before reacting emotionally. Reduce information overload. Get quiet. Spend some time in silence and ask yourself one simple question. Does this belong inside of me? Every time you choose truth over comfort, clarity over confusion, and wisdom over impulse, you strengthen your small intestine. The small intestine reminds us that wisdom isn't found by collecting more information. Wisdom comes from knowing what to keep and having the courage to release what doesn't belong. strong. When the heart loves, the pericardium protects, the small intestines discern. Our relationships become healthier, our minds become clearer, our emotions become steadier, and our lives become more aligned with who we truly are. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Next up, we'll explore one of the most mysterious officials in Chinese medicine, the triple burner or sanjiao, and discover how it coordinates harmony throughout the entire body. Until then, remember, healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the most authentic version of yourself. Be well, be blessed. Take care. Bye-bye.